is Radio 314 on the Red Ice Radio Network.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Lana. Thanks for joining me wherever you may be in the world. So did you all watch the American primaries last night? As of now, it looks like Trump won 4 out of 5 states, and the GOP elite, as well as the left, have their panties in a bunch. I have more to say on this, which I'll say for after the interview in my closing. But right now, we're going to talk about South Africa. My guest is a young woman by the name of Amelia Raath. She has a degree in fine arts, but also specializes in integrative nutrition. When I asked her how she came to the topics I cover in this show, she told me her boyfriend, who is a listener, slipped in some Radio 314 and Red Ice shows onto her iPod. Good boy, that's how it's done. Slip it in gradually, but frequently. Well, recently in South Africa, Black African students have been protesting, burning down white statues and art in universities, and talking about killing white people. The outright hostility, racism, and violence continues against Afrikaners, but you won't hear about it in the news. Why? Because of the word apartheid and the belief that white Africans were and are so horrible that they deserve whatever treatment comes their way. And if they're being murdered violently simply for being white, deny, deny, deny. I always come back to South Africa because it's an important example of what happens when a white minority is taken over by hostile leftists. Amelia will share her experiences growing up and living in South Africa, and she'll share current conditions and events. Amelia Raath, coming up next. Welcome, Amelia. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Lana.
So I have to ask, Trump's been such a huge sensation around the world. Are you hearing about Trump down in South Africa?
Not in the mainstream media at all. Not that I've seen a bit here and there, but I follow a lot of the alternative media on social networks. So I see the alt-right viewpoint on it, and then here and there I can see, the leftist viewpoints. And I've been in a couple of arguments on Facebook, because I would post something like, Sanders is an idiot, whatever, the socialist, the communist. And then I'd get kind of flack from my Facebook friends saying, no, but I'm a Bernie Sanders supporter, and why are you not? And they don't reply to my comments, of course.
Of course not.
I think they think I'm crazy.
Last night we were watching Trump. He had a rally in Chicago, and it was canceled because, Mr. George Soros, he's always sponsoring these huge protests and whatnot. He sponsored one last night, actually organized and put it together, and it was the usual. There was like thousands of protesters. They stormed this event, and they were there talking about, protesting Trump and talking about tolerance and stopping hate. But they all embodied nothing but hate and intolerance themselves. So they were harassing and trying to intimidate, and shame Trump supporters, and basically trying to block people from hearing what Trump had to say, which is interfering with, the democratic process, which they claim to love so much, But the news was denying that it was a planned attack, although we all know it. So, yeah, it's amazing up here to see how everyone is uniting against Trump. It's outrageous.
Yeah, it's crazy. I always ask myself when there's something in the media, I'm asking, well, who's pulling the strings and what are they actually wanting us not to see? And I actually heard something yesterday that George Soros might even be behind some of the South African media networks.
That's right. Yeah.
And I would not be surprised.
Jeez, I wonder what he does when he watches the news. He just loves it, rubs his palms and says, I made that, Ugh.
Yeah.
I tell you, it's scary, this kind of, I call it an American Bolshevik. I see these, Bernie supporters and whatnot, and they're just these really young, kind of lefty, bratty kids. They have this look, but they're really violent and spooky. I think that kind of like what you guys have down there, you're communists. I think that they would happily kill people in the name of stopping hate. It's scary,
Yeah, probably. It's scary. I'm scared. Sometimes I just stay in the flat in my apartment. I don't want to go outside because I have been hijacked twice before, attempted hijackings. The first was 2 colored women actually followed me home after work the morning, and then she tried to, get me out of the car to steal my car. I've got a very old Toyota, and people love the car for its parts or whatever. And I was training for a half marathon at the time, so my legs were very, very strong. And I kicked the woman. I kicked her until she stopped. And the other time I was waiting in front of a client's house. and 4 black guys just came up to my car and then, started to intimidate me. And I just, took out my taser and I showed them my taser. But you get a fright. So, I mean, you need to be prepared for possible violence from all
That's right.
directions.
And I want to get into more about South Africa. There's a lot to get into, but I wanted to, maybe you could share some of your background for everyone listening.
Okay, well, I am an Afrikaner. Some people would call me a boer. I don't really always, see myself in that kind of culture group because I, kind of questioned the world from a very early age. But anyway, so I was brought up, Afrikaans. My parents are Afrikaans. My dad started working as a technician installing telephone poles in South Africa, and my mother is a nurse. So I was in an Afrikaans school. I remember, I think I was 8 or 9 years old. The first black kid was admitted to the school, and we were all, kind of briefed beforehand, how we should be kind to this kid, and we shouldn't be nasty or say nasty things. Kids that age don't generally say, nasty things, except for the kid things they say, like, oh, you're fat or you're stupid or whatever.
Yeah.
So I remember that, and then a black girl came in the school when I was, I think, 13 or 14, and we all kind of rushed to be a friend. Everyone wanted to be a friend because that would be the cool thing to do. And at that time, I didn't really know a lot about apartheid. I think I was about 9 or 10 years old in 1994. Yeah, I think I was 9 years old, and I remember sitting in front of the television when Nelson Mandela gave his speech, and I can't remember what was said. I think everyone was just, kind of, waiting to see what would happen, and I can't remember. I mean, I didn't have anything to do with it. My father had nothing to do with it, and yet we are blamed for it. Anyway, so in high school, I went to an all-girls high school, an Afrikaans school. I went there because it was the only school who had art as a subject, and I really love art. I studied art. Anyway, I'll get there. And there were a lot more black girls in the school and colored girls also, and there were never any issues. We would all just get along. There were kind of conflict when some of the black girls would speak in their native language. Because we didn't understand it unless you would, do the effort to learn their language. And we did also have their language as a subject in the early years of high school and in primary school. Anyway, so we weren't bombarded by racist stuff. I think everything was still kind of, chill in South Africa at that stage. Or, I was so kind of protected from what was going on in the outside world because it was a Christian school and it was a girls' school. So we didn't really focus on what was going on the outside. We were all focused on doing good in school and, doing sports or whatever. But I've always been a questioning person. I remember when I was 15, I was reading the Norwegian writer. I don't know how you pronunciate it. It's pronounced as Justine Harder.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote Sophie's World. So I was sitting there reading Sophie's World, and the rest of the girls in my class were reading the Cosmopolitan magazine. And Sophie's World is about, Western philosophy. So I started questioning what was going on at quite an early age. And I had no interest in, some of the mainstream subjects. I just wanted to sit in the art class and make art. And I did do that, wouldn't go to science class or whatever and, just sit in the art class painting and get in trouble. But anyway, so I was always questioning. And then I studied art at university. That was the only, decision that made sense to me. In school, in the girls' school I was in, no one ever talked about you need to pay taxes and you need to study something to make money, blah, blah, blah. I just wanted to do art. And so I did that. I studied art. At that time, I was still very much Christian because I grew up in a Christian home. Your parents do the things that they think is good at that time. And I questioned that a lot. It didn't make sense to me that the church, and this is a Dutch Reformed church. Most of the Afrikaans churches in South Africa is Dutch Reformed, so it's the Protestant side of churches. And it didn't make sense to me that, my body is sinful and my flesh is sinful, when all I really have and all I really know very well is my own body. But that kind of got ingrained within me to a point where I had no respect for my body at all. And, I would be eating McDonald's
Hey.
every day. And
They
I
have
would
that down
be,
there, huh? Of course they do.
yes, of course they do. KFC, all the horrible takeaway stores. It's horrible.
Fried chicken, of course they do.
Of course. Horrible. Anyway, so I would be eating all this junk and drinking a lot of alcohol because, you get faced with a world when you were in a school that's kind of protecting you from the world, and suddenly you're at varsity and you are bombarded with what's going on in the world. And I couldn't really, handle all of that, so I would go and drink a lot. And I ended up weighing 112 kilograms. So I was this huge body in the end and just doing damage, taking a couple of drugs, smoking marijuana a lot. And it got to the point when I was doing my master's degree. And if you want, I can, get back, into what I was doing the master's about. But anyway, so I ended up being so ill. I was a type 2 diabetic. I was depressed. So I was on 7 different kinds of antidepressants, which made me suicidal.
Oh, geez.
And I ended up in hospital for that.
Well, they say, too, that there's a connection between your gut and depression. So if you're eating the wrong
Yes.
food, it throws off your healthy gut balance.
Yes, and that's what I'm teaching my health coaching clients now. The gut is so incredibly important. I didn't know that, of course, but then. So I had to quit my master's degree and I had to go home and get healthy. Learn to eat food, from the beginning, from scratch. What is a vegetable? Really. So anyway, sorry, I digressed a bit, but. I started working then. I didn't have any ambitions to go back into the master's degree because I was also disillusioned by then, asking why I should, go into academics, because I was seeing some of my academia friends, just spiraling kind of in a destructive manner of living because they never live. They're just in academia all the time and, with the same kind of worldviews, the same kind of, I almost want to say incestuous, ways of thinking. And when you would confront them with a different way of thinking, they would just, revert back to what they were being taught at university. So I started working, here and there all over the place. And then I got a job at a pathology lab. Because I started getting, very interested in health because of my own health journey and getting off medication and starting to eat properly again. And I had some experience working in the lab as a student, so I got the job there. I was working night shift for 3 years. And I loved it because I was learning a lot about the human body and I could see what unhealthy eating and an unhealthy lifestyle can do to your body, because I was also in the ICUs a lot, so I would see these huge overweight massive bodies lying there with cardiac problems and heart disease, and when you look at their blood results you can see what that lifestyle is doing to your body. So I kind of had that background, but then what happened was my body could not handle the night shift, any longer. You can imagine with circadian rhythms and working at night, sleeping in the day, your body just kind of doesn't want to do it anymore.
That's true.
And I couldn't I don't know if it was because I was white, because I'm white, or because I'm a woman, or because I was just doing my job too well in the position that I was in. I couldn't get a job working day shift that, would kind of earn me the same kind of income that I was earning during the night shift.
Now, don't they have a affirmative action, but for blacks, right? For the majority?
Yes, they do. I don't know if it was applied in the company that I was, it probably was. But I'm also in a very conservative part of South Africa. So they do kind of, because it's a medical industry, they really want the best people to work there. So even though I had a lot of black employees, everything was always fine. There weren't many, conflict, whatever. But yes, they do definitely give, there's definitely affirmative action. I didn't really see it where I was, but I can tell you, some of my friends and with my father, he was retrenched twice, being replaced by black incompetent workers, which he had to train for the position that he used to have. But anyway, what happened was I was kind of sitting wondering, should I quit my job? So should I quit my job? Because I also started doing, the certification in health coaching. And then the last kind of straw was when I found out that some of the newly appointed black motorcycle drivers earned only 900 Rand less than I was earning. This is about give or take $40. To give you an idea. And that was insulting because I really took pride in my job because I was working with people's lives. I was the one who had to call a doctor when a patient's blood results were abnormal. And so I had to understand, a lot of pathology, and I had to understand what was going on in the lab, some of the microbiology stuff. I couldn't be illiterate.
Yeah.
And I wasn't earning, much more than a motorcycle driver. And I'm not saying that they did not deserve the salary that they deserved. I'm just saying why wasn't my salary adjusted to give credit to the job that I was doing?
Mm-hmm. How are salaries there? Are they pretty decent, or are white people getting paid very little?
No, it's horrible. It's horrible. I see positions offering, like for a secretary, 3,000 Rand a month. Like that does not even cover your rent if you're renting an apartment. So I don't know how they want people to, also buy food.
I'm curious, what is the rent if it was equivalent in US dollars? How much would it be a month for an average apartment?
I don't know, maybe about $700, $500. It's difficult to say because our rand recently took a huge plummet with Jacob Zuma firing our finance minister. So we are just above a junk. They call it a junk state. So that's where we're heading to where Zimbabwe is, definitely. I don't know, maybe about $500. I don't know. It depends also where you live in South Africa. Like in Cape Town, the rent is extravagant. You'd need to earn a huge salary to be able to live there. Johannesburg as well. And then when you go to the rural areas, it's much more affordable. But for me, when I was paying rent and then you pay your bills, I was just making it with my money.
Oh, jeez. So I have to ask, you're into all kinds of subjects. We have a lot of parallels here, but what really started getting you to wake up to see basically this war on European people?
It's interesting. My boyfriend introduced me to podcasts, and the first podcast that I used to listen to, or I still listen to it, is Mysterious Universe. It's these two Australian guys, and they talk from everything, near-death experiences and aliens and psychedelics, and I'm very interested in all of these things. And then I would always ask him to put the podcasts on my iPod, and then he would sneak in a Radio 314 or a Red Ice Radio podcast. And in the beginning, I didn't really want to listen to all of it because I didn't understand the politics. I wasn't into conspiracy theories. So he would put on, the podcasts about European heritage. And I remember the one that I really loved was, I don't know how you pronounce her surname, Maria Kvilhaug, the lady with the mead.
Uh-huh.
And I loved it. It's about European heritage and the mythology, and I've always been into it. And then eventually I started listening to, with the immigration and the Jewish agenda. And I think if anyone who's, kind of of a sound mind and they listen to the arguments, which are well thought out arguments, it makes sense. It's not unfounded. If you listen to it, you have to admit this is what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
There is a Jewish agenda. There is white genocide going on. You have to admit it, and then you have to adjust your worldview. So for me, realizing that not only am I an Afrikaner, and that is my heritage, coming from Jan van Riebeeck and all the Dutch settlers, not only is that my heritage, but my heritage is also the Germans, the ancient German, the Germanic people, the Vikings, the Nordic people. These are my ancestors. And I get goosebumps when I think about it. How can I give up when my ancestors gave their lives for me to be able to sit here today?
Yep.
I can't be a loser. I need to fight. I need to be a Viking. And that gives me a lot of courage and a lot of, motivation to fight what's going on, even if it's just for my own, physical survival. So, once you see what's going on, you can't unsee it. We never watch television. And I put on the television the other day, in preparation for our interview, just to see what's going on in media. And lo and behold, there was a program this Sunday. It's a Jewish program. So they were talking about, some stories from the Old Testament. And then there was this Jewish guy talking about the Jews in Lithuania being killed by the Germans. And he was talking about Jewish excellence. And, this Jewish school, and you are only admitted in the school if at least one of your parents are Jewish. Like, if we do that in South Africa, like, can we please have a white school for the white Afrikaner people? You would be killed because you're a racist. And right after that, there was a program about 2 African American girls from New York going back to Nigeria to find out what their roots are. Because they can't have an identity if they don't know their past and their roots and where they come from. So why is this on TV? Where's my program about going back to my ancient European roots? Where's my programming?
So how was this for you? You're waking up to all these things, European identity, and you're in South Africa. Now, we know that there is, an active, ongoing plot to ethnically cleanse your people. So how did that collide in your head?
It's traumatic. And I think it's a very very lonely place to be, because very few people will share your viewpoint. I get a lot of flack from even family members when I talk on Facebook about white genocide. They say, no, but white genocide is not a thing. So it's a very alone thing, and you have to be very careful of what you're saying, especially on social media. There was a woman from Durban just after Christmas. She made some stupid Facebook post saying, all these blacks in Durban. You can see photos of this. When they go to the coast on Christmas, it's like a black sea because they're all there. Mm-hmm. And she said, these people are like monkeys. And she was referring to the way that they treat the environment. Like, they leave all their trash on the beach. They trash everything. And she lost a job. She was ridiculed. It was a national scandal. She was ridiculed. And just after that, the ANC launched some kind of program where they would persecute, so-called racists. And these racists are not allowed to leave the country.
It amazes me how many Marxists, white Marxists, are Afrikaners. I mean, how did this even happen? Are they just outright denying the brutality against their people and the murders and the death of even little babies? I mean, I've seen horrific photos of what they do.
Yeah, I think it's very deep brainwashing. And I think also the media is to blame a lot for it, because I didn't know about the white, what do you call it, the camps, the squatter camps. I didn't know about it until I heard about it on your show. And I'm in South Africa, and I didn't know. So I think the media definitely covers it up. You'll read in the paper about the farm murders. They'll never say who committed it. They'll never say in the media it was blacks. But when a black person is killed by a white person, they say it. Then the headline will be white person killed, blah blah blah, which doesn't happen often anyway. So I think it's brainwashing. I heard today about a friend of mine whose daughter is in grade 3 in school. And she's in a debating team, or they have to do debating. And the subject for the debating is racism. Now, this little girl is 9 years old. What what does a 9-year-old girl know about racism? So I think it's ingrained in us from a very early age, especially, the generation now, not so much my generation. So the more you are exposed to it, the more it kind of becomes part of your worldview. So I think you're being brainwashed to hate your own race. And I don't get, these the professor at the University of the Witwatersrand saying that white people should just kill themselves.
Yeah, we should read some of those quotes. Do you have that in front of you?
Yes, I've got a quote. The professor's name is Ter Blanche Delport. This is a very Afrikaans name and surname. The only life purpose for whites, specifically Afrikaners, is to await their death or to commit suicide. We should be prepared to die silently without having children so that white supremacy could come to an end at last. And he stands with his viewpoint, and it's not only him. There's, I think, 3 other white people, who were organizing this thing. The one guy is part of the EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters Party, and this is an Afro-Marxist party, and they hate white people, and they're to blame for a lot of the stuff going on, on the university campuses right now. But the sad thing about this whole symposium thing they organized was that they invited high school children. The one school was the Afrikaans High Girls School, and this is a beautiful school. I've been to this girls' school. So they're inviting high school girls to listen to this hate. It's hate speech. It's self-hate speech, and these girls are listening to it, and they're learning to hate themselves. So I see all the more, white girls having black boyfriends, white couples adopting black babies, when there's a lot of white kids in orphanages that also need adopting.
I wonder how easy it is for white people in America to adopt Afrikaners, or if they don't allow that.
I don't think they allow it. I don't know. I have no idea. I've only heard about orphanages that they can't get money from companies if the company, something about only black orphanages will get money from companies, but if they want to give money to the white orphanages, they will kind of be punished with the BEE system and taxes and whatever. So it's definitely a very...
I mean, this is a genocide, folks. Everything you're listing here is an active plot to destroy your people. I mean, this is genocide. And no one wants to talk about it. No one wants to acknowledge it. And what makes me really mad is the white Afrikaners that just sit by and support it and encourage it,
I don't get it. I think this guy, if he's saying that we should kill ourselves, I'm wondering when he's going to kill himself. And I feel like I would be the first person to shoot him.
Yeah.
Because I don't stand for it. I mean, these are my people. This is my race. This is my heritage. And you're just saying that I should kill myself.
And if it's so horrible, why does all of Africa want to come down to live in South Africa if you guys are so horrible, right?
I know. On Facebook, I see a lot of, black people. And sometimes when I have time, I kind of indulge these people. They would say things like, you shouldn't be on the continent of Africa, and white people are evil, and you should just all be in hell, and, you should all go back to Europe and whatever. And then I asked them, but if we should leave, where will you get that German car that you're driving with? And you are sitting on, Facebook booking on your phone. Where do you think that comes from? You're boiling water in a kettle with electricity that, my people founded. My people built this country. So where would you be if we leave? You'd go back to, and I'm not racist. I'm just,
just a reality of it. You're pointing out the lie, the double standard here.
Yes, it's definitely a double standard.
And then meanwhile, they're colonizing, Africans are colonizing Europe right now, but apparently that's not a problem, is it?
No, it's cognitive dissonance. I can't see how people cannot see what's going on, and it's horrible. I'm not saying, and I must also add that not everyone is like this. I mean, most of us in South Africa, we're all friendly with each other. We're friendly with black people. The black people are friendly with the white people because, I mean, that's a human thing. You don't want to be in conflict all the time, but behind the scenes, there's this hatred being spewed. And it's okay for black people to publicly and on social media publicly say white people should die. fuck white people, kill all whites, that's okay. But if a white person should say that, they should be very quiet about it. And there are white people that do it. I don't condone it. I've heard a lot of white people saying, you should just kill the lot or whatever. And
Jeez.
that's not okay. It's not okay to be like that, but I understand where it's coming from because we are being reverse, colonized. It's a reverse apartheid. And there's a whole new generation of racists being bred. And it's the fault of the government. It's the ANC government who's allowing this hatred to fester. And, I don't want to go look for a job, and pay taxes. I don't want to pay taxes to a government who is actively seeking my destruction.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I'm not paying taxes. I feel like Josie, the anarchist that you interviewed, a year or so ago. I'm not going to pay taxes.
Yeah, I think it's our duty at some point because it's immoral to pay these crooks, They're trying to kill us when we shouldn't be giving them money.
Yes, that's true. The other thing that I just want to add, when your eyes kind of open up and you see what's going on, and maybe it's time to talk about what's going on the universities.
I was going to ask, and it's mostly these Marxist groups, right? They're agitating, they're calling for ethnic cleansing. There's campus riots. Yes. So what's going on down there? Because we're not getting the true story up north, of course.
I'm first going to tell you about what happened on the campus here in my city. I'm from Bloemfontein, so that's kind of in the center of South Africa. Before I tell you about what's happening, on the other campuses and with the whole Sizzle John Rhodes debacle. So what happened, I think it's about 3 weeks ago, some of the black workers who work at the university, so these are the cleaners, they, keep the place tidy, do the technical stuff, but they are outsourced. So these people are third party workers. They are not employed by the university. And they were unhappy about, their salaries or whatever. And so they went to, we call it Toy in South Africa, on the university grounds, completely disrupting the classes. You can't get onto the campus. And they're kind of, violent. They throw things. I think they enjoy it as well. So what happened was some of these people, the workers, and then the EFF got, I don't know why, but they got involved. Now this is the Economic Freedom Fighters group. Their leader is Julius Malema. He used to be part of the ANC Youth League until he was expelled. So he started his own party, and they're an Afro-Marxist group. They hate the white people, and they will say it at their rallies, kill the white people. So they got involved, and what happened was this Monday evening, when there was a varsity rugby match going on. Now, people need to understand South Africans and the Afrikaners are really love rugby. You don't mess with a rugby game. So these people pitched up during the rugby game, and started, singing on the field, kind of. I don't know. They were definitely antagonizing, and taking their squabble with their workers, with their employers, to a university rugby game. Like, why are you there? I mean, you're unhappy with what's going on in your work, so now you just go and disrupt a rugby game. And I saw the videos. They were not peaceful. They were singing, but they were not peaceful. And I think that the white people the students, white people, black students, everyone, I think they just got fed up, with having their rugby game disrupted. And some of them started coming onto the field. And then chaos erupted. So they were chasing these black protesters off the field. And some of the white students were kicking the black students, which was not a good idea because the media, of course, blew this thing up. And I saw what was happening that evening because my boyfriend was on campus. He was in the library studying. He's studying psychology. And I saw what was going on Facebook, and I messaged him and said, is everything okay there? Because there's riots on campus. And then he heard what was going on and he came home. And I was on social media watching what was going on. And I saw the mainstream media Facebook pages and the websites putting out the videos that were available, and then pulling it off again, pulling it from social media. It just disappeared. and I was wondering why, because when it came out initially, it seemed like they were reporting, the truth, and then they pulled it off, and the next morning when they put it up again, they twisted the facts so that it looked like the white people started everything.
Uh-huh. Yep. Of
And
course.
of course. Well, what were you thinking? And I was asking some of these people on Facebook, some of the media groups, that this is very suspicious. Why do you do this? I wonder how the facts will be distorted now. And lo and behold, the facts were distorted. So the next morning, of course, everyone was, up in arms about this, especially now the black students and the EFF, including the president of the Student Representative Council. And he published a speech which sounds very much like the speeches Julius Malema gives at their rallies. And mobilize, 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 and, black people are still repressed, and white supremacy, blah, 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 and you white racists.
How can it be white supremacy when you guys are a minority?
I don't know. Like even Afrikaans, the Afrikaans language, yesterday has been it's been removed from the university. Anyway, that's a whole thing, and I'll tell you about that now. And then there were protests on campus about, the blacks being oppressed. And there were videos coming out of these black people destroying statues on campus. And I was very saddened by this, because these are statues that I used to draw in drawing class when I was a student. So it's statues of some of the white builders of the university, the benefactors.
Yeah, they were burning paintings of white people too, correct?
Yes, that happened at the University of Cape Town. So anyway, so you could see videos of, these black people protesting, and then a white person coming up to them trying to, peacefully discuss, why they were so angry. And you could see this black guy just hitting the white guy in the face. And the white guy does nothing, because if he would do something, he could be, very hurt. He could be, end up in hospital.
And I heard that the ANC has rules like that, basically, or laws like that a white person can't defend themselves if they actually hit a black person. It's big trouble for them, right?
Yes. If your house is broken into and you shoot the guy out of self-defense, you can end up in jail for murder. You can end up in jail because you are defending your family.
God.
Yes, this happens in South Africa. So what happened at the University of Cape Town, and I'll just give you a bit of a background about Cecil John Rhodes. He was the Prime Minister of the Cape Colony from 1890 to 1896. So this is a British guy. He was part of the British Empire. He was not an Afrikaner. He was a believer in British imperialism, and he said things like, the Anglo-Saxon race is the superior race, and they were the first, race, whatever. And then he also founded the Rhodesia, which is now known as Zimbabwe. But anyway, so he was not he's not the Afrikaner friend. He was not an Afrikaner. And he also he also did good things. So he started the Rhodes Scholarship, which is funded by his estate. So this is money that's made available to excelling students so they can go further their studies at Oxford University. And there's a huge statue of this guy on the grounds, on the campus of the University of Cape Town. And this is a beautiful university. If you've ever been there.
I've been to Cape Town, but I didn't see the university.
Oh, it's stunning. I wish I could study there. So I don't know what started it. I think the EFF, they spark these things because they just love conflict. And they started this whole hashtag Rhodes Must Fall movement. So they were, urinating on the statue. They were spray painting it. They were trying to pull it down because Cecil John Rhodes was a colonialist, and they, as black students, are being repressed, and white supremacy and white privilege, and they are not privileged.
It's funny though, because if he supported separation, then that's allowing blacks to do whatever they want, and then they don't even have to live or see white people, right? So you'd think they'd be happy about that.
That's the cognitive dissonance, you see, because they don't want to be left alone. They want everything that that the Western nations have. They want to drive around in BMWs. They want to wear Italian suits and live in beautiful, you know, beautiful homes. They want that. They don't want to go back to where they were when South Africa, you know, when the Dutch came here. There was nothing
It
here.
was dirt. That's it.
Exactly, exactly. But I mean, Monica Stone spoke about this in your interviews, and also Karen Smith. You know, people can just go and listen to that again. There was nothing here. They did not build anything. Um, you know, the wheel wasn't even invented
That's
when
right.
when the Dutch came here with huge galleys. Um, so anyway, to come back to hashtag Roads Must Fall. So this was a huge thing, and it led to kind of, you know, I can only liken it to iconoclasm in medieval times when they started, you know, tearing down all kinds of statues and monuments in South Africa. So they would vandalize the statue of President Paul Kruger. And he was one of the biggest builders of the Black nation. You know, he wanted them to prosper. But no, let's go break down that statue. They even vandalized a statue, I think it was in Port Elizabeth, which was it's a beautiful sculpture of a horse and a soldier, and this is to commemorate all the horses that died during the Anglo-Boer War. But no, let's just go destroy
Wow.
this. Let's just destroy this monument as well,
It's like they
because
didn't they
anything.
didn't understand what it was probably.
No, and they don't. And even now, again, there was violence on the campus of UCT because they were angry because they didn't get accommodation. So we just have to give everything. We need to give accommodation. We need to give free education, and nowhere is education free.
Nope.
But they just wanted, so they burned down paintings, and these paintings are valued to 700,000 rand. That's a lot of money in South Africa. It's a lot of money. And they just started, you know, burning paintings. They burned down a bus, a varsity bus that takes students from their residences to classes.
They're just shooting themselves in the foot because they want to get into this school, but then they're trashing everything there, right?
Exactly. It doesn't. It's insanity and it's barbarism. I mean, if you're not happy with something, write a memorandum. Don't. I don't understand. They think that they will get everything when they are violent, and the
Uh-huh.
ANC
Yeah.
ANC gets things this way. They are violent, and you know, violence. That's not a good thing because people lose their lives.
Now, is there a
Um,
white police force or is it all ANC police down there? So when these riots are acting up and there's violence, you know, could white people call cops or what happens?
Yes, the police usually gets involved. They don't always do anything like at the varsity here in my city. They were just standing around when these people were pulling down statues and monuments. So they don't always do anything, and most of the police are black people. So I've seen violence from the black police against white people because sometimes the white people also get involved in some of the protests, and I don't know because I don't see everything, but there's definitely black on white violence. And anyway, something like 80% of the police force in South Africa are HIV positive. And when you see them, they are fat, they are overweight, they are completely useless. I mean, I had to go to the police station, you know, to report my hijackings, and they just don't do anything.
Oh,
They
of
just
course
don't.
not. Good luck with that. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't care. So I don't really know if they're actually, you know, valuable in, you know, in calming the protests. I think sometimes they add to it.
Now, about the universities, I had seen too that Black Lives Matter, the sham, you know, sponsored movement is down there now. I heard some of that in the universities. What do you know about that?
Um, yeah, it's all over. At the University of Pretoria, they are protesting because they don't want Afrikaans in the university at all. And Afrikaans is the third most spoken language in South Africa. It's not just the Afrikaner people who speak Afrikaans, it's the colored people. A lot of black people speak Afrikaans. They speak it well, it's their language. So yeah, it's this whole Black Lives Matter thing, and the polar opposite of it is hashtag kill all whites, hashtag I'm sorry for the word fuck white people. It's okay for a black student to paint this on his t-shirt. That's not racism. But two students from the Stellenbosch University going to a party painting themselves purple, they were dressing up as aliens. That's racist.
Well, did they explain they were dressing up as aliens from outer space?
Yeah, they did. But I think what happened was someone put a filter on the photo so it looked much darker than the purple that they actually were. So it looked like they were trying to impersonate black people, and that's racist. But it's not racist to walk around with a t-shirt on a campus saying kill all whites.
All this stuff made it to the news up here in the north, and all of the news was siding with these black students that were saying fuck white people. It's unbelievable.
Course.
Yeah, they were justifying, oh, well, because apartheid. So, I mean, how long are you going to use that? It's like here, they could just do whatever they want and just say slavery because of slavery. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. I spoke with someone yesterday from one of the Afrikaner parties here because I'm thinking of joining and actually starting my own branch, being kind of a leader and being an activist. And she said she was at a symposium where one of her black friends, and he's an attorney, so this guy is well educated, and he was giving her hell. You white people. And then one day she just asked him, what about us white people? And he said, yes, but my grandmother and grandfather, they were, repressed during the apartheid regime. And she said, but look at you now. You went to a very good private school. You got your tertiary education. You're driving around in your fancy car. What's wrong? I mean, why are we still being blamed for this? It's like, Europe that has to now pay for colonialism.
Yeah, all of Europe, every single country in Europe, right?
Exactly. How long are they going to be punished for it?
And it's never acknowledged the good things that came from colonialism. There was a lot of good things that came. And you know what? When you talk about colonialism, too, the numbers were actually very small of the number of families that went and set up colonies. Nothing compared to the mass immigration, the millions coming into our countries today.
It's true. I would like to maybe just now read a little excerpt from Augustus Invictus's the letter to the people of Europe.
Sure, yes.
But I first want to tell you to get back to the Black Lives Matter thing. I don't know much about the Black Panther Party in America. Their leader, Khalid Muhammad, in 1993 made a speech about, killing all whites, kill the white women, kill the white men, kill the babies, and when they're buried, get them out of the soil again and then kill them all over again. And I saw the same kind of speech in 2012 again, and this is all available on YouTube. Now, this new Black Panther Party sent delegates to South Africa to speak to the EFF. And the EFF publicly proclaims that they find their inspiration from the new Black Panther Party. And this is a hate group.
Oh, yeah.
Why are they even being allowed in South Africa? And the other interesting thing, I don't know how much truth is in this, but I mean, this is available on media. There is a Jewish billionaire in Swaziland. He was born in South Africa, but he now lives in Swaziland. His name is Nathan Kirsch. He's on the Forbes list. He's number 435 of all the richest people in the world. And there is evidence, and you can see the evidence. It's a little, deposit slip on the 12th of December 2013, where he deposited 8.9 million rand in the bank account of the EFF. So it seems like there's outside influence fueling the fire
of course.
In South Africa.
Yeah.
So because when we're unstable, we are open for, being plundered, it seems. So it was interesting when I saw the article about this Jewish billionaire. At the end of the article, there was a little postscript, little caveat saying the word Jewish, referring to Nathan Kirsch, was removed from the headline because it doesn't have any relevance to to what's being said in the article.
He wants to hide.
Of course. I found that interesting. That's the Jewish agenda.
Are you friends with Joe Slovo, too?
Probably.
Now, I wonder
I
if
don't know.
these billionaires like him, they're probably protected, right? Their houses never get ransacked. They probably never deal with violence because people know who's funding
Mm,
who, right?
no, never. They sit after, behind their 3 meter high walls.
And he
And you
probably,
see,
is he running the diamond business or something? Because I know a lot of Jews came in there and just swooped into the diamond trade.
yeah, I don't know. You see, I'm just recently, getting into all of this, but I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised because and the thing is, when a country is unstable, like we are now, Zuma fired our finance minister in December, and it plummeted the rand to to the lowest ever. Like I can never afford anything, on internet shopping ever again because the dollar is at this point is 15 rand to the dollar. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be able to get out of the country. I just simply don't have the money. Um, so we are very unstable. There's an Indian family, the Guptas, which seem to have, I can't, he's got, the ANC, their balls in a vice grip. They seem to organize everything here. So if you think Jacob Zuma is the president, you need to ask who is behind him or who is on top. And it seems like it's not even South Africans. It's the Chinese, it's the Guptas from India. It's a very wealthy entrepreneur family. So South Africans don't even have a say in what's going on here. It's outside. It's outside influence. But I can't go into that because I simply don't know all the facts. I don't know. I need to find out what's going on.
Now, how are whites even finding jobs and surviving? I'm just so curious about what it's like there for you.
It's difficult. I mean, I sent my CV out now because, when I quit my job to do the health coaching thing, I couldn't foresee the economic crisis. So people don't have money for health coaching, and I can't find a job now. My boyfriend's been trying to find a job. He doesn't find a job. He's a white male. He won't find a job. And people are being paid peanuts. So there's a lot of people who are unemployed. And I can see it all the more. Like I'm part of a lot of ad groups on Facebook, and I see all the more white people asking, please, is there a job? Can someone please help me find a job? And then they're starting to sell their furniture. They're selling their belongings just to be able to put food on the table.
Yeah, I know because I keep hearing people say, "Why don't they just go back to Europe?" And I always say it's really expensive, and Europe's not even considering Afrikaners refugees. They don't give them any
No.
aid, so that's awful.
Yeah, no, it's horrible, and you see almost more white beggars on the streets than you see black beggars. And I feel for everyone. I mean, it's horrible. No human being should sit in this situation where you don't know where you're going to find food. No human being should be in a position like that. But I would rather give the little bit of money that I might have extra to the white person, or just give him some food to eat than I would first look after my own people. And the government isn't even looking after their own people. So no one is benefiting from this post-apartheid government.
Now, do
It's
they
been
have
20,
any form of welfare there? I mean, are they're not that organized, though, right? I mean, all that money probably disappears.
yeah, it disappears. It goes into personal funds. Like President Jacob Zuma, who has his mansion in Natal, Nkandla. That's stealing, state funds. That's stealing taxpayers' money just to, pay for him and his 6 wives. I don't even know how many wives he has. But yes, the black people do get welfare. They are paid for, each and every child that they have, and they do have a lot of children. Like there's no stopping, um, and they don't care. Because they get social welfare for every child. So I think they just think, oh, let's just have another baby and then we get more money from the government. The government can't keep up. I think there's only something like 20%. Don't quote me on this, but I mean, it's a minority of people in South Africa who are taxpayers.
Of course, yeah.
So, I mean, it's going to break the system. You can't just keep on helping people. So yes, they do get houses, RDP houses that are badly built. There's welfare.
Have you thought about communities, or maybe there's more communities like that, like Orania, that are kind of starting a self-sufficient place just for Afrikaners?
Yes, I would actually love to, go there or start something like that. But I think the majority of Afrikaners see that as very right, and they don't want to ask because Orania is very isolated. It's in the Northern Cape. It's far from the rest of South Africa. I think that, when you live there, it's awesome because you're completely self-sufficient. But you're kind of isolated from the rest of the world. And if I go there, I would be isolated from my friends and family. And people aren't doing it, I think, because you need money to be able to do that. You need money to put up solar panels and, buy property to be able to, grow your own vegetables or whatever.
Yeah.
And people just simply don't have the funds. We all just want to make it. So people, I don't think, are even considering it because they are so busy just trying to survive. That trying to, break away from the system is as far removed from their minds as, any conspiracy theory, if I can liken it to that. No, I mean, I would love to do that. I've got a friend who's her father still owns a farm on one of the riverbanks. And we said, when they inherit the farm, then we should start a community there. But I fear that's going to take too long. I feel like I want to get out of the country. I don't have any means to. But I don't.
Well, if anyone listening wants to sponsor Amelia and her boyfriend, get in touch. Where's our billionaires that are, trying to get all of our poor white people out of bad places, Yeah.
The sad thing is, I've got friends who are intelligent people. These are doctors and dentists and lawyers, and they just simply say they don't want to have children. They don't want children to, in this country because they don't have a future. So we get a negative birth rate because people don't want to have children. They can't afford to have children. I want 10 kids, but I can't have 10 kids here because I can't afford them, firstly, and secondly, I don't want to bring kids into this country.
They might be murdered too.
Exactly.
Now, I wonder if there's a way that you could go back. You're Dutch, right? Could you go
I'm
back
Dutch.
Could you apply? Could you say, "Hey, these are where my ancestors are from"? I know Russia has something like that. All my grandparents are from Russia, right? I'm hardly American, but Putin had something. Whereas if you can prove that your family's from there, you can basically get residency. You can come back.
That's fine and that's awesome, but how do I prove it? I mean, my ancestors came here in the 1600s, so I'm 4 centuries removed.
Yeah, it's a long time.
That's a long time. My boyfriend is from Scottish ancestry, and he can prove it because I don't know. I think his grandfather was born there, so it would be easier for him. And I've applied to some of these websites, maybe to go to Scotland or maybe even Ireland, and I hear nothing back. Now I'm wondering if they are, very busy with admin, or is it because I'm a white person?
Yeah, it's probably because you're a white person. Maybe you could come in the route where all the refugees are going and just say, I identify as black. You have to let me in.
I was actually considering maybe just going and visiting some friends because I do have friends who live in London, and go over and say, I'm here to visit family. And then when the time comes to leave, I'll just, maybe apply for asylum and not come back.
Exactly. I would try anything.
But it's difficult, my family is here. This is also my country. And I've got pets that I would like to, take with me. It's difficult to just uproot from where a lot of your roots are. But I also feel, a pull to go back to Europe because that is my heritage. My ancestors are from there. And, I get sad because I'm so far removed. When I want to celebrate Yule, which is in the winter solstice, it's summer.
I know.
Summer, yeah. So it kind of feels...
It's tough for us that live in the colonies. We've been away from our mother continent all this time. Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Canada, America. People are so involved with where they live now, but they've forgotten that they're Europeans. I hear comments made the other day. Someone made a comment, send the Muslims, a white person. No, don't tell the Muslims to come here. Send them to Europe. And I got irritated. Like, wait a minute, that's your homeland. You're thinking of Europe as something separate. I mean, I would love to see a back to Europe movement so then we can go and have like a cohesive group of people that are ethnically really tight and just fight for Europe again to clean it up? Because, I mean, a lot of these colonies are probably going to turn brown over time. It's just the reality of it, the way things are heading. So, but Europe, that can't happen. That's our homeland.
That's the thing. And I also hear kind of the other side of the argument. They would say, no, but I'm not European. This is coming from Afrikaner people. They would say, I'm not European if I compare myself to the Dutch or to the Germans or the English. We are different. And yes, we are, because we are separated by centuries and we are separated by, a whole continent. So yes, we did, kind of develop into individual, people. But I'm still European. I'm white. So I'm still European, so I don't completely agree with that argument. I understand where they're coming from because, yes, we are Afrikaners, but we are also Europeans.
Yeah, we're too individualistic, and it creates problems for us,
Yes.
We bicker about these minor differences and old wars and things that happen where I feel blacks, at least in America, they don't think about it. They just unify because they're black. So are Afrikaners, I mean, is it a small portion of liberals that are there that are in denial, or is it a pretty big portion of you?
It's difficult to say because I think the left, the liberals are very, very vocal about their feelings, and I see a lot of them on social media. I don't know if social media is a way to gauge what's really going on, but they generally frown upon, kind of the right. They call us extremes. We're radical. We're racist. They frown upon us. So I don't know. I think I think if we could organize, there would be a very, very strong Afrikaner force that stands together. But it's the cool thing in South Africa to be the liberal. It's cool to be gay. It's cool to be a lesbian. It's cool to not want children because the world is overpopulated. It's cool to be vegetarian. That's all not different subject, but.
Oh yeah, the vegan craze. I see all the Bernie supporters are all, they eat their veganese, Ugh,
yeah,
can't stand it.
I was there. That's just stupid. So it's cool to be liberal because you are not ostracized in society. You are not marginalized at university. And it's interesting. I just want to read this to you. After everything that happened on the campuses, I saw this one girl on Facebook saying, "I'm ashamed to call myself an Afrikaner today." And then, she goes on and says, if being Afrikaans means that it is acceptable to prioritize a stupid rugby game over actual workers and the plight of black South Africans, then we should all get right back on Jan van Riebeeck's shoddy ship and leave. That white supremacist patriarchal bullshit ideology is not welcome in our country, and we continue on this path, neither will we be. Apartheid may very well have ended 22 years ago, yet black bodies are still being brutalized by white men for demanding the right to exist and their pain to be heard. Apartheid may have ended 22 years ago, but it is Afrikaners who ensure it remains well and truly alive. Well, what about all the white Buddha who are being murdered on farms?
Yeah. Or what about the blacks saying they want their black-only university and apartments? I mean, they're asking for segregation, but having you pay for it again. They basically want us to be their slaves. That's what it comes down to, They want us to be there just to serve them. That's what I see happening in America. So they really don't want to be separated. I always say, if you hate whites so much, let them go live somewhere else. But they don't want that because and at the end of the day, they need us to survive. And I mean, this whole lie about basically killing blacks in Africa, it's a lie. I mean, their birth rate has soared since we brought medical advancements down there, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, curing malaria, STDs, helping with pregnancies. I mean, yeah, I know there's vaccines and a lot of other bull, but there's also a lot of good aspects as well.
No, they can't live without us. And it sounds like there's a little bit of me that still feels, Amelia, you can't say this. This is racist.
Yeah, see, self-censorship. We all go through that. And anytime I feel that I say, nope, I got to just blast through that and get through that wall. Because more of us are doing that. And it's a healthy response. It has to be done.
Yeah. Just to give you an idea, I'm looking at the figures now. In South Africa, the demographics around here, we are about 54 million people, of which 2.5% is of Indian and Asian origin. We've got the white people who are only 8.4%, the colored people are 8.8%, and the African black people are 80.2%.
Wow.
That's a big majority. But still, they are afraid of this little white minority. they, they hate us, and we're already a minority. I don't understand.
Yeah, when they say end white supremacy, what they really mean is just end white people. They just want to kill them that's what it means now.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
serious about that.
Yeah. No, it's true. And they want to make South Africa. I don't know if you've heard about Azania. It's the Republic of Azania or something. It's like a black Israel. It's just for black people. They don't want white people here. So it's fine. I'll go back to Europe. Just stop killing my people. Just send us there. If you want us out of here, just send us there.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I mean, I would leave. I would. And it would be sad because South Africa is a beautiful country. We've got the most diverse, you know, nature scenes. We've got deserts. We've got thick jungles that looks like rainforest. We've got bushveld. We've got mountains. It's a beautiful country.
I was there. It
And
was beautiful. I was really impressed by Cape Town. It kind of reminded me of parts of like a Californian, like Santa Monica or something. You had the boardwalk and the ocean, and it was very beautiful.
yeah, very cosmopolitan, Cape Town.
Do you want to share some thoughts on apartheid, what you've been told, what you've learned have been lies?
Yeah, apartheid, I've been told, was the worst thing that could happen to South Africa, that it was evil and the white people did this great injustice to black people. And I think this is what the international media is perpetuating. That's not how it was. I mean, I was born in 1985, so I mean, I wasn't part of apartheid, so I don't really know how it was. But I think what it was about was to let each nation be a strong nation. Let the Zulus be a strong nation. Let the Xhosas, let the white people, everyone has got their little piece of land and just, live in peace. But no, white privilege and white supremacy, we are not allowed to have the society that we built. Everyone must share in the society. So it's a communist, the anti-apartheid thing is it's a communist thing.
Yeah.
And now people still see apartheid as this horrible thing. It wasn't. Apartheid is a horrible word. It's more, separate is a better word, segregation, not apartheid. Apartheid means, in Afrikaans, means you are set apart and you don't have any contact. And that's not the way it was. I mean, people get along pretty fine, but forcing this diversity, forcing people to integrate is just leading to conflict.
Yeah.
And I see, at the hostels on Varsity, a white girl is forced to share a room with a black girl. It can only lead to conflict. I mean, people will naturally just, be with their own people. That's just how we are. That's nature. But we're being forced to integrate, and it doesn't make any sense. I don't know. I would just like to, if we've got time,
Of course.
just to read 2 paragraphs from Augustus Invictus's letter to the people of Europe, and it inspired me. And if the listeners haven't listened to it, they should really just go listen. I love it. Okay, I'm going to read it. People of Europe, do not express regret for your history. The blood of sea-conquering Vikings and world-shaking Romans still course through your veins. And if you saw now the faces of your ancestors before you, would you feel proud of yourself and the civilization you have worked to uphold? Or would you feel ashamed of your weakness and of the decadence we have all perpetuated? People of Europe, do not feel shame for your blood. You have been taught to hate yourselves because of the cruelty of your ancestors, but your ancestors were marked as much for their virtues as for any vice. It was our ancestors who braved the waters and conquered distant lands, yes, to obtain their gold and spices, but also to give them civilization. Our ancestors were simultaneously the war bringers and the light bearers. As Nietzsche once wrote, terribleness is part of greatness.
It's beautiful.
And I would just wish the Afrikaner people could all listen to this, because we need to stop apologizing for what was done, by a few elite people. It wasn't everyone's choice. We need to stop apologizing. I'm sick of it.
Well said. Well said. I hope there's more Afrikaners listening. I've had a lot of them reach out to me, so we do have quite a few listeners in South Africa. And I hope you guys all get together because it's important to have friends that think like you do, where you can let your hair down and really talk about the things that matter. Speaking of Augustus, he was just barred from coming into Canada, right? They allowed 25,000 Syrians to come in unchecked. But Augustus Sol Invictus he actually tweeted the letter he got from the immigration department.
Yeah.
He's not allowed in because he's a possible danger and a threat.
Yes, I saw that. I laughed. Oh, just, that you are fascist. And, that's a very Afrikaans thing to say. In Afrikaans, there's a saying, jy praat nooit oor kerk en politiek nie, which means you never talk politics or about the church. And I think this is just perpetuated everywhere. You don't talk about it because everyone gets uncomfortable. So if you want to talk about it, you will be shut down.
Well, it's time to have those uncomfortable conversations. It's funny, the left always says, it's time to have uncomfortable conversations about race, and then they never actually have that conversation.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, Amelia, you also run a health website, so tell us about that.
Yes. Okay. So I'm a certified health coach because I kind of got sick of seeing all the, especially women who are infertile and they're overweight and they can't have babies and they're sick because they are being fed all the medication from Big Pharma. And I was there. I was on antidepressants that nearly killed me. I'm sick of them, not having the best life because they are overweight. And this is my own story. I was also overweight and I had to lose a lot of weight to gain my health back. So I just decided that it would be selfish to not kind of share my knowledge that I have about health and, what is healthy, what do you need to eat, what kind of lifestyle you have to live to be healthy. And so I educated myself. I studied at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, which is in New York. So I coach women who struggle with their weight to lose the weight in a healthy way and just to rebalance their hormones. If you're infertile, then talk to me, I can help you. So I run a website. It's www.ameliaraath.wordpress.com. Just tells you a bit more about my health coaching and the different programs that I offer. And I do see Skype clients. I would love a few more international clients. I do offer a free session, so you can just have a feel for what health coaching is about and what my approach is. So anyone listening, please feel free to contact me to claim your free session. And then I specialize in digestion. So, getting your gut healthy again, feeding your microbes, sorting out the gut dysbiosis because that's behind things like depression and anxiety and, being overweight and rheumatoid arthritis and Hashimoto's. All these autoimmune diseases start in the gut. So I'm very passionate about that. So that's kind of what I do for a living. I can't really go into politics, I'm afraid. So the only way that I can help, white people is to look at their bodies and help their bodies be healthy.
That's so important, though. And that's one thing I never want to let go of here. We have to talk about ways to stay healthy and improve ourselves and improve our lives. And that's very important. So while we talk about the negative things, exactly, we need to eat right, to keep our mind right. We need to meditate and clean out that junk. It's equally important. And that's one thing that I like. I like talking to people like you that are well-rounded. I find that there's some people who are pro-white that still, support vaccines and Big Pharma and Monsanto. And it just kills me because, look at who's running these companies, people. They're corrupt.
Exactly.
The research is there. This is poisoning us. This is killing our people. You don't want any of this stuff in your life. So I appreciate what you do.
Yeah, it's poison. And even the things we put on our skin. I'm working on a making own soap. I do make my own soap and I make my own body lotion because I refuse to put all those poisons on my skin. I mean, if you just look at what's in an antiperspirant, butane and propane, aluminium, why do you want to put that near your breasts? Hello, breast cancer.
Exactly. Yeah, I cleaned all those products out years ago,
Yes.
and I noticed a huge difference in my health, and I'm always harping on people also to clean out those chemicals. It's useless. Today, you can buy things online, too, that aren't as much money, that are organic and natural products because there's so much of it on the market,
Yeah. Yeah, I teach my clients how to make their own. I teach them how to ferment foods, also like kombucha and milk kefir and whatever, because if you can teach someone something, they've got that skill forever, and then they can, teach their children that again. So it's awesome to be able to buy these products, but it's also so easy to make. You can really make all these things to yourself. Just educate yourself a bit and get the supplies and do it. It's not difficult.
Now, is it
Anyone can
easy
do
for
it.
you to get supplements down there? Or do they offer those kinds of things? Are there health food stores?
Yes, we do have that here. There's also a lot of multi-level marketing crap in here. I was part of a multi-level marketing group called
Like the
Herbalife.
pyramid scheme?
Yes, yes, and it's horrible products. There's soya protein isolate in there, and there's artificial sweetness and canola oil. All the bad stuff's in there, but it's being marketed as a health food. So usually just stick with the small supplement companies, because you know that when they're small, they don't put money into marketing, but they're putting money into research. That's the kind of companies that you want to buy your supplements from. So yes, we do have a lot of that here in South Africa. I think we're a lot like America. Western nations, people are always looking for a quick fix. So they'll buy, a meal replacement shake, or they'll get an injection to lose weight or whatever, or I don't know, all these crazy things. And I think if you just eat real food, you don't really have to supplement that much. If you buy from local farmers, if you grow your own food, you're going to be okay. You don't need to, take all these synthetic things.
That's
You
right.
don't.
And I've been looking into also buying from farmers so we can have, grass-fed meats and
Yes.
eggs and vegetables. A lot of these things don't have to cost a lot of money, but I also find that I eat less because I feel more fulfilled. I get more nutrients from it, as opposed to eating
Exactly.
something that wasn't raised correctly. And think of how the animals are treated too. I mean, the organic scene, they're so gentle on the animals and treat them how our ancestors would treat them. This is what we've done for thousands of years. So I always get annoyed when people act like organic some lefty thing or some scam. It's like, no, this is ancient. This is how our people used to
Yes.
eat, right?
Yeah, that's just returning to the traditional way. So please just stop with your synthetic stuff. If I've got any message for people out there, please do not trust the food supply. Do not trust food manufacturers. Trust your farmer. Trust your own vegetable garden. Just
Exactly.
trust yourself more, because your body knows what it needs. You just have to, listen to it and give it what it needs, and stop listening to people who are putting money into making money. Um, it's crazy.
Well, Amelia, thank you so much for your time today. I know you shared your website. Was there any other closing things you wanted to say?
Yes. I just please want to read you the lyrics of a song from Lorena McKennett. The song, it sounds like she has an encounter with an entity, like a Celtic god or a goddess. And I do, this resonates a lot with me, because I feel like I would like to go and live there. And why I'm reading you this is because I think it's important that all Europeans, people of European heritage, need to remember their roots, need to remember where they come from, because I fear if we forget, we will cease to exist. And it's already happening. So I just want to quickly read you these lyrics. Okay. On a dark New Year's night on the west coast of Clare, I heard your voice singing. Your eyes danced the song. Your hands played the tune. It was a vision before me. We left the music behind and the dance carried on as we stole away to the seashore. And we smelt the brine, felt the wind in our hair, and with sadness you paused. Suddenly I knew that you'd have to go. Your world was not mine. Your eyes told me so. Yet it was there. I felt the crossroads of time, and I wondered why. As we cast our gaze on the tumbling sea, a vision came over me of thundering hooves and beating wings in clouds above. As you turned to go, I heard you call my name. You were like a bird in a cage, spreading its wings to fly. The old ways are lost, you sang as you flew, and I wondered why. The thundering waves are calling me home, home to you. The pounding sea is calling me home, home to you.
Well, very good, Amelia. Thank you so much for your time this evening, and I hope you have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Thank you, Lana, for the opportunity. Happy birthday on Monday.
Ah, yeah, 314. I got to say,
Awesome.
On one bad aspect, that's the day Einstein was born, which everyone should listen to the Einstein Fraud Show on Red Ice Radio. But on the good side, that's the day Karl Marx died, so we can celebrate that. All right, have a good night.
You too. Thank you, Lana.
I said in the beginning that I had a few things to say about Trump. If you didn't listen to the interview with David Duke on Red Ice, I also joined in where we discussed Trump. Please do. When on the spot, you always forget points you want to share, but it came back to me while I was watching the primaries last night. First and foremost, though, to my American listeners, I, like most of you, have not voted and do not believe in the political system. Thought the vote was always rigged and that the man behind the curtain always chooses the next president. While I do think that this has been the case for most presidents, and we know in America the big funders behind candidates always have dirty motives, not every candidate or person who gets into politics is controlled. It is possible to have free radicals. I think Trump is one of those. Sure, he speaks at AIPAC, but he knows the game in America. But since we know the establishment plays both sides, how easy would it be to get people like us to not vote by saying it's all controlled opposition 100% of the time? Easy. Many of you believe that and therefore don't become politically active at all. You do nothing. Is that better? No. In effect, you let the other side win by doing nothing. As Duke has pointed out, voting for Trump is a strategic move, and we haven't really had a viable strategic move until now. The fact is that this is it for white Americans. This is probably the last presidential primary where white people will be the majority. Immigration is the number one most important issue, demographics. Something must be tried now. If we do not limit immigration now, that's it, folks. This country will be lost to invading, hostile Europhobes who want to destroy white America. They won't be kind and care about equality when white people are a minority. In fact, we'll be slaves to serve the majority, just like in South Africa. Race-based redistribution, affirmative action, perks for POC, none of these will go away when white Americans become a minority. But no minority white people will benefit from these programs. The policy will be to deny that whites are being oppressed and replaced. Young Bernie and Marxist supporters will grow up being indoctrinated with the idea that white people deserve hardship, that they must pay and owe non-whites. This will only grow stronger as the coming years go by, as hostile, resentful invaders move into America. I've been studying mainstream media for weeks during the primaries, and the constant message is stop Trump. Trump is Hitler. Fox, CNN, all of them blast this message 24/7. Yet what he's suggesting is very mellow. It's literally polarized into nationalism versus communism. We have to get into the fight and pick sides strategically to further the bigger goals. Trump is that move. He has brought simple but important things to the forefront, such as pointing out how the media is full of dirty liars. Yes, this is so basic, but the masses need this. Also, he's been highlighting the hypocrisy, violence, and double standards of the left. These things have been oozing into mainstream news and reaching masses. As the clear hatred of whites becomes more apparent, the dispossessed majority will come to people like us. The Trump primaries have set records in terms of reaching first-time voters and Democrats voting Republican. Why? Because people know that these are desperate times. This is it for white people. If we do nothing now, expect hard times coming up for white people. I still think it's polarized beyond repair, and this country will be forced to break into territories eventually. But right now, for our lifetime, we have to try everything for the best interests of our people today, including trying to vote and vote for Trump. One of the biggest reasons why Trump and all those people attending the rallies are being attacked is because it's white people that are forming interests and realizing that they have interests. So if we don't support the quote-unquote white party of racists, non-whites will see it as a great weakness and they will take advantage of it. It may be inevitable that whites will lose this country to the orcs, but in a time of war, that doesn't stop soldiers from fighting and dying trying. The other thing, it's the best thing that can happen to have the GOP get broken up. The neocons, conservatives, moderates, and all the rest of them are showing their true allegiances, and this is a good thing. Then a new opposition to leftist insanity can begin to form. So if you live in a state where the primaries have not taken place, stay tuned locally. Get involved and get out and vote. Let's try it. Alt media alone can be millions of extra voters. All right, everyone, visit redicecreations.com for all our content, and of course, please consider signing up for a Red Ice membership at redicemembers.com. We really, really need to bring on some extra help to hammer out some projects. Every membership helps. A 3-month membership is €6 a month. That's nothing. No one's getting rich, and every euro goes back into what we do. Lamestream News has billions, and look at the crap they create. Anchors on CNN make millions a year for pumping out lies and inciting hate against whites. We can do so much better, but we need your help. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.